Well, there's still 4 games to go in the National League season here with Buxton, but already we've put ourselves potentially on the verge of lifting this National League title as well, of course, as gaining automatic promotion up to League 2, and it kicks off with a home clash against Dagenham and Redbridge. Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 25 of Rookie to Royalty here on Shaun Does FM with Buxton FC. I hope you're doing well and come of day. Going to make our way through hopefully the remainder of this season. We've got 4 games left, an 8-point gap on top of the National League, so it does mean as soon as Scunthorpe slip up, as long as we don't bottle things, we should be okay and can gain that automatic promotion back-to-back ones up to EFL League 2 for next season. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to that, but this does come off the back of yesterday's episode. Played a couple of more tricky games away from home, but thankfully did get the job done in those. A 2-0 win over Boardroom. We're backed up with a bit of revenge there, 2-1 over Newport County for that loss we did suffer there in the 5th round of the FA Trophy. 2 games since then, to be fair, both times I've had to do some panic tactic stuff late to make sure we got something out of these games. Tried some quite mad stuff we'll show you shortly. It took a late goal there to Ben Midgley to make sure that we took something at home off Torquay United. That was very disappointing considering that those guys all the way down in 22nd, but to be fair, that's who we need to strip up Scunthorpe on this next match day if we want to lift the title with still 3 games left. Kind of hopeful they might do something similar there in this match day. We are able to make our way through, albeit that game is played on a Sunday, so even if we win this game, we'll actually know if we lift the title until an off-camera moment, so it might be a little bit of a dull one. If they do there take 3 points off Scunthorpe, that will actually mean we don't get a trophy left here with this Buxton team, but hopefully Torquay can do something similar there to what they did to us. And then a couple of very late goals away at Halifax Town to pick up a 2-1 win. Kazim and Sebastian Williams with some big late impact for us there, so certainly not our best off the back of yesterday's episode. But if we have a look at what Scunthorpe have been doing themselves, they've not been that great either. They did make their way through to the final of the FA Trophy, but around that, they've lost to Boardroom and dropped points to Newport Barnet as well as Solihull Moor. So to be fair, they are definitely arsenaling things here late on in this season. It does mean, despite the fact that we're not too good ourselves, kind of like Liverpool at the moment, we are holding on to our lead on top there of the National League, 8 points. And with only 4 games left, you'd like to think we'll get the job done here in our next couple. We'll make our way through during the course of today's episode, especially off the back of Dagenham and Redbridge, as those guys sit in 5th, because then we take on some much easier teams, the likes of Gateshead there down in 21st, Dorking Wanderers in 18th, and Maidenhead United in 23rd. So even if this first game doesn't quite go to plan, we should be okay in those last 3 to make sure we can hold on to what at that stage might be just a 5-point gap. But also off the back of yesterday's episode, we have had a youth intake here with our Buxton team for this season. We'll go over here and check out the youth candidates from this season. Already signed a couple of them, and to be fair, there won't be too many getting signed. You can see there's not that many with 3-star potential or more. A couple there who have just snuck up in the good talents since I was last here. But the big one that we're definitely signing from this year's youth intake was Jordan Borishushuk, I believe is how you might pronounce that one. He's got to have some part checking him there with a name like that, surely. No, just a local lad. Interesting last name then for a proper Englishman, but he is an attacking midfielder. Of course, these days, we don't actually play with an attacking midfielder, so we've signed him. We're going to train him as a right winger, but also he can do a job up front, but certainly looks the most promising from our youth intake this season, with 1-star current ability and 4-star potential, considering now we're on the verge of making our way up to League 2. That's not too bad a level of potential for a player who has come for our youth intake, but to be fair, I'm quite disappointed with this youth intake, as it is the first since that big takeover last season where the Tycoon did invest in both our training facilities and our youth facilities as well. We did convince them to improve our youth recruitment. You wouldn't really know it from what we see here. Also signed Derek Ashton, who is a left back. He might be okay there, even though his current ability is not too great. And just below there, I did notice someone else with 3-star potential who was not there before, and Aaron Carmichael, a Northern Irish centre-back at 1.99 metres tall. We're definitely going to end up signing him. I'll do that, in fact, off camera before we get stuck into this game that we are about to play. In fact, why not do it now? He's massive. Let's sign him on a youngster contract. That works perfectly fine for me. He's massive. Let's make sure that he sticks here at Buxton. There's the rest of the players we did get for our youth intake. You can see the one player from Finland and one other from the Netherlands. So a little bit here of variety with our youth intake this season, but the problem being that they're not that good. In saying that though, they did beat our under 18s with a few of our first team players involved, 2-0 in that game that does take place at the beefy. That might be a bit better than they look there this year's youth intake, but probably only going to sign 3 of them there in Jordan Ashton and also Carmichael, that big centre back whose potential has just gone up, and of course he's massive. We'll make sure that we get hold of him. But first up today, we do take on Dagenham and Redbridge, easily our toughest game in this last 4-game stretch. We're going to make our way through. Their recent form has been pretty good. Up until a loss to Morecambe a couple of games ago, they were in some quite good form. They are only 2 points clear, though, of the teams who sit just outside the playoffs, like Ebbsfleet Town as well as Newport County. So to be fair, they need some points, potentially more than we do here from this first game in today's episode, but hopefully at home we can do something decent here in this game that we are about to play, albeit our recent home form actually hasn't been that good, been dropping points quite regularly here against some teams you'd expect us to take points off of. But what I've been doing in those last couple of games, we have been behind and struggling quite a bit for some reason with our Buxton base. So I haven't tried the Buxton blitz because usually I've made all my subs by that point, and our strikers haven't been in too good a form, Morgan or Lahane. You can see Morgan of late, he hasn't been doing too well, but what I've been doing is usually we bring on someone like Will Truman for a David Carson, and both him and Williams can play an attacking midfield. So what I've been doing when we've needed a goal those last couple of games, and for some reason it's been working, those two go up there, we put them both on attack as we do with our wingers, and also then we go back to our fullbacks and chuck them on wingbacks on attack instead of what they were doing previously. And for some reason, if we also go there and do a little bit of a higher tempo, not fully high, but if we need goals late, that's what we do as well as go attacking. And that's been doing the trick for some reason. They're a 4-1-4-1. For some reasons working, so we've been doing that when we've needed goals, and thankfully for some reason, no idea why, it was complete desperation from me, we've managed to pick up those 4 points late from those last 2 games that we've played to make sure we've got that 8-point gap here with this Buxton team. But what we're going to do here for this first game in today's episode is go back to what we usually use here with the base. We haven't been doing too badly with it, just not quite looking as good as we did when we had to switch to it earlier this season off back of that terrible start that we made. Thankfully, that hasn't proved too costly, and hopefully now can pick up a good result here, especially with quite a strong team we are putting out for this game. Ben Midgley has come back from injury, as you saw during the course of yesterday's episode. He came back in superb form, but is on a heavy workload, unfortunately, so that does mean that Carson keeps his spot there in central midfield, and that's why Will Truman is on the bench. But apart from that, that's the best team that we can put out with top likes of Morgan to improve their form. It hasn't been too good of late. We've told them that, so hopefully they can help us here pick up some points, and easily our toughest game in this run home. Just make sure that hopefully we're not going to bottle things too much here. But to be fair, Scunthorpe, they've been doing the same, but obviously their game coming up the day after this one looks a lot easier than ours. But if we can pick up 3 points here and they drop any points, we'll then be the champions and going straight up to League 2. But at this point, you kind of expect that to be the case. Thankfully, we've been fumbling just a little bit less there than Scunthorpe have ever since we bet them back a couple of episodes ago away from home. 2 really good wins over them so far this season. So I do think we're a better team than Scunthorpe. Fingers crossed we can make the most of it here and gain that automatic promotion spot up to League 2, where things will certainly be a lot tougher in the league, I imagine, with every team being professional. We saw a couple of episodes ago when I checked out the wage budget here compared to all the other clubs. We're actually quite high up in terms of what we're paying our players. I wasn't too sure why we were so far down in terms of that season preview. For some reason, that was the case. I think if we go up to League 2, that will certainly change. So it could be a tough season for us next season once we make our way up to League 2, which surely now is a bit of a given with our situation. But early stages here on the front foot from a throw, but Sebastian Williams, a great chance there to square it, it looked like, for George Morgan, but for some reason he took on the shot and pulled it well wide. So unfortunately, a big chance there for us to go 1-0 in front. But thankfully early on here in this game, we're looking quite decent with our regular Buxton base. So fingers crossed here, we don't have to change too much during the course of this first game in today's episode, because seriously, I'm not too sure why we've had to change against the teams that we've been playing recently. But we try and put a ball there into the mix, so unfortunately hit it away there from Dagenham and Redbridge, and now I've got a good chance to do something here on the counter-attack. Burton down the right-hand side there is on the ball. Put this one far post looking there for Remy, who will put that one away. Shiloh will beat Casper the Ghost at his near post, and that there was a bit of a dirty FMing early, not too deep into this game, but we've looked pretty dangerous so far. Yet we've gone 1-0 down. Burton will float that ball far post. For some reason there, our right back, it looks like Impinion just gives up and doesn't chase him. He can hit that one past their Casper in goal and give Dagenham and Redbridge a 1-0 lead. Absolutely no chance that he's offside. He's a mile behind our defenders, who have done a pretty average job, but hopefully now can grab an equaliser from the set piece. Pinion tries to pick out Morgan to flick on. Unfortunately, nothing doing from that, but some good short passing. Colville in a ton of space will put that one bottom left corner there. Williams making up for the big chance he blew before with an assist there. We make it 1-1 pretty quickly, and based on what we've seen so far, I think deservedly, because it feels like we've been the team on the front foot, but somehow there Colville left and a ton of space yet again on the right-hand side and puts that one away to make it all square. So thankfully, not behind for too long, albeit now we are back down the other end here for a corner. Lawless will put that one into the mixer. I think that was Banbury who thumps that one onto the woodwork. Thankfully, off the back of that, someone there is offside. But all of a sudden here, Dagenham and Redbridge are starting to get some momentum and looking quite dangerous from these set pieces. Fingers crossed that's not a theme for the remainder of this game, because stats-wise, we're certainly looking like the best team in this game. Fingers crossed here we can kick on and make it count. Just checking here some player ratings as we're about to make our way into halftime. But to be fair, most people out there are doing a decent job. Williams and McLean on a little bit of a deep yellow heart, but it's not too bad so far. I'm just debating if we go a little bit more attacking here going into the second half like we've done in some of our previous games. Also, Truman and Kelly, they'll probably just come on at some stage for those players on those deep yellow hearts. But for now, I think what we do is just stick with what's kind of working. A little bit frustrating that goal we did concede first, but thankfully did bounce back relatively quickly. Do look like we're the team here who are on the front foot. And a point from this game still might not be that bad. Of course, if Scunthorpe don't pick up a win, that'd make it 9 points. And with our goal differential, that would pretty much be all over Red Rover. But we're looking really poor here set piece defensively. Another corner, this time Bradbury will put that one on target and make it 2-1. He had a warning shot there in the first half. Unfortunately, we didn't notice there's someone there at the near post. They may as well not be there, as is the case with Casper the Ghost. And we go 2-1 down. So unfortunately, kind of feels like he currently we're getting FM'd a little bit, albeit it's our set piece defence, which is letting us down. And now Adelusi drops down to a 6.4. So Muhammad will come on there at right centre back with the first sub we've got in this game. I think for now, we'll just keep things usual with our tactic. We're only one goal down. We'll see if we can find a way to get this level with what we usually do, because so far in this game, we've not been as bad as we were in those previous two, despite the fact that we are behind. But now it's Sebastian Williams who drops down to a red hat on a really good rating, a 7.2. But we'll take him off there for Will Truman. Also, it's going to be Caden Kelly coming on for Ryan McLean, drop down to the red hat, as we suspected would be the case at half time. About to make our way to the final 20 minutes of this game. Still the team on the front foot, a much higher XG, but we're not in front. We're 2-1 behind, and if Hume puts this one away, we're in all sorts of trouble. But thankfully, that one comes off the post and goes out for a goal kick. But Dagenham and Redbridge here on the front foot with these highlights in the second half. But now there's only 10 minutes left. Now, unfortunately, we haven't got two attacking midfielders out there. So what we're going to have to probably do here is a little bit of a 4-2-3-1. What was our plan going into the season? And try and work around it like we've done in those previous games. So I think either we'll put Kirby a bit further forward than what we usually do in that balling midfield role. We'll chuck Carson onto attack instead onto support. Both our wingers can go onto attack, seeing as Truman is already on that. And also, both our wing backs will put them onto attack instead of being full backs on support. We'll go attacking and up that tempo like we've done in those last couple of games. Rob needed some late goals. Let's see if it works for the third game in a row. If it does, I've got no idea why this works, but apparently it does. Not making that change. A throw in here inside of the final third. Pinion will pick out Carson, who picks out Caden Kelly, who puts it away. I've got no idea why that's working, and the usual Buxton base isn't, but a slightly higher tempo and a couple of player role changes in particular, going a lot more attacking with some of them, does seem to produce some goals for us. Kelly there thankfully puts that one away in the bottom right corner under a fair bit of pressure, gets it past Hammond, and hopefully, at the very least, we'll get a point from this game. Let's just see what happens here in the 5 minutes of added time. But thankfully, it looks like we'll grab something which I think we definitely deserved on the front foot for most of that game. But for some reason, we went down twice during the course of that game, but thankfully found a way to bounce back through Cole and then late there through Caden Kelly off of the bench. A little bit tempting to go a bit more attacking for our 3 games left this season with what's been happening since we wrapped up yesterday's episode. Going a lot more attacking has paid off, but of course that does mean we're 9 points clear of Scunthorpe. Any slip up from them now, and it probably means that we lift the National League title. We'll see if that's going to be the case when they take on Torquay in 8 days' time, or if we need to come back and get the job done away at Gateshead. So unfortunately a bit of a blown chance for us first up there in today's episode. We do come back to pick up a 2-all draw, not too bad considering that Dagenham and Redbridge are doing quite well, albeit now they've dropped down to 6th off the back of a thumping win from Boardroom over the absolutely rubbish Tamworth. But as you'll see there, we've still got an 8-point gap on top of the league. So unfortunately, if we actually found a way to win that game, that would be all over Red Rover, because Scunthorpe had to rely there on a couple of late goals to pick up a point at home against that Torquay United team, who do look to be finding some form. Maybe Gateshead and Solihull Moors should be a little bit worried about those guys late on in the season, because they've now taken points off both us and Scunthorpe. But it does mean that just one more win, doesn't matter who it's against, will secure the title for us here with this Buxton team. But before we get stuck into a game against Gateshead, they're in 20th. Did draw off York City away from home, so not a bad result from there last time. This one is away from home for us, but the recent form is not too good. So I'm hopeful this is the game where we can steal ourselves that title as well as promotion up to League 2, despite the fact we are rotating quite heavily. Quick backups here for the last 2 weeks of the season. There has been a bit of news in terms of our Tycoon owner, NK Beard, because currently all of a sudden we're in the process of a board takeover, and honestly I'm not too happy about this, because it might mean that the money dries up, and that certainly would not be ideal going into our first season up in League 2. So fingers crossed that K can turn down this thing that's happening here with the board trying to take over control here with Buxton. To be fair, the finances, they aren't that great anyway. Hopefully, come the end of the season, we'll get some prize money and our Australian Tycoon can top all that stuff up. But it's certainly concerning, off the back of that good position we were in around this time last year, all of a sudden it's not quite looking so good, and the owner might be moving on off the back of getting these guys up into the EFL pyramid proper. So unfortunately, there could be some stuff happening here which makes Buxton a little bit less attractive, especially if some other clubs do come in for us, like of course Barnet did at the end of yesterday's episode during the course of the off-season. But before then, let's hopefully get these guys promoted up to League 2 as we take on Gateshead. You can see it there. We've gone with a full rotation. If wondering who that centre-back is, he's a player that we signed who got released from another club there and filed. I'm pretty sure that one game came against us after he chose them after us. That might have been last season down in the National League North or something. But Jack Quirk comes in as an extra defender with, I thought, a bit of potential. As it turns out, that potential not as hot. But he'll come in here and partner Curtis at the back, seeing as quite a few of our centre-backs are on a heavy workload. But you'll notice it's a full rotation for this game, apart from Charlie Casper, who is in goal. So fingers crossed, despite the fact here we are putting out a pretty rubbish team, we can get the job done and gain that automatic promotion. If we don't, then surely it will happen in one of the next 2 games. And to be fair too, there's not too much of a home crowd for us to worry about. It looks like only about 800 people who are showing up here for this game for the home team. They probably already know they're in trouble. Just make a late change here. Let's actually bring on here McLean on the bench. He looks a bit more versatile than who we had there previously. We'll give a squad number to Jack Quirk. Let's just give him number 12. It'll be his only start this season. Fingers crossed some of our more regular players can get back into the team after they sit this one out. But certainly, interesting team we're putting out here, or potentially could be the game that we seal that promotion up to League 2, and also a National League title. Back-to-back titles and promotions would be quite nice with this Buxton team, especially this season, because it was definitely not expected, at least in terms of the season preview. As I mentioned earlier, the wage budget, though, does suggest there should be about where we are, but there's our lineup as usual before Gateshead are going with a 4-4-2. And as long as we win this game, doesn't matter what Scunthorpe do as they play their game. To be fair, I didn't actually check who that was against. No doubt we'll get updates during the course of this game, but hopefully can do decently here with that same Buxton base. Still made changes from the start here for this game, because surely against the team down in 20th, we should be fine, albeit the first highlight here is a throw-in for Gateshead. They played it one all the way back there, though, to their goalkeeper and Farman, but good interception there from Will Truman. Good chance for us here on the counter-attack. Someone Aluko plays it back in there to Truman. Poor pass, though, looking for Kazim, and Gateshead do get back on the ball. They pump that one deep to him for some reason. Then McKnight does not win that race to it. They squid that one nicely there for their striker, but thankfully Casper comes up with a good save. So a good counter-attacking chance there for Gateshead off the back of what should have been a nice one for us there off the back of an interception from Will Truman. Thankfully Casper with a big save early on, but concerning signs early on the back foot here against a pretty rubbish team. That's what was happening off the back of yesterday's episode. Scunthorpe, they have a lead over Halifax Town, so it does mean we need to win this game if we want to make sure we are going up as champions, albeit, even what it's like now, we probably are safe with goal differential. So as long as it's a draw, we should be fine. But Scunthorpe, they're getting the job done there with their 1-0 lead over Halifax Town. But that first half was very quiet, and we're not looking too good. We'll just see here who's doing poorly, but also, before we do that, let's go to a bit more of an attacking mindset here. What we'll do is stick with the 4-3-3. I'm kind of trying to figure this out here as we go with the options out there. Probably best just to try and stick with our current formation, but chuck both those forward midfielders onto attack as well as our wide players and up that tempo. Let's just see if that might work instead of what we were doing with the 4-1-4-1, because to be fair, for 45 minutes, I'm pretty sure we'll concede a goal if we try and do that. That might be a little bit too mental for an entire half of football, but if we have to, we'll do it later on here. But hopefully, seeing as there's a highlight from the kickoff, it might suggest that we'll pick up a goal yet again. Luco plays that one back in there. I think that might have been for Caden Kelly, but unfortunately this time he puts that one over the bar. But thankfully, an early highlight here in the second half off the back of those changes that we did make. Lahane struggling on a 6.4. We'll see if we have to take him off soon here. Also, Lindley on the same range. But now a corner, we try and put that one near post, and Henry Curtis will hit it home. It's a set-piece goal, so to be fair, not too sure how much of an impact there our changes have made. But a brilliant time for your first goal of the season. It puts us on the verge of the title and promotion up to lead to that near post corner, which has been working pretty well for us so far this season, usually with the likes of Hewlett as well as George Morgan. This time Curtis will pick up a goal. While we're here, we'll sub off there Kazim Balik on that yellow card, and also Morgan will bring on for Lahane, just struggling today on a 6.4. And again, that's an extra threat from set pieces. We make our way now towards the last 20 minutes of this game. Fingers crossed, can find a way to grab a cushion goal and just take the pressure off ever so slightly. Morgan from another corner, but that time it just goes over the post. So a good chance for us there, try and wrap things up. Certainly looking a lot more dangerous in the second half than we were in the first, with pretty much no highlights apart from that chance, which we kind of blew from that interception to Will Truman. It's now 2-0 to Scunthorpe as well. So to be fair, we do need the 3 points from this game, or at least a draw actually might be enough with that goal differential situation that we do have. But never mind that, because George Morgan is back in the goals. We make it 2-0. Surely that's the goal that seals us the title here with this Buxton team. While we hear Mohammed can come on for Lindley on a red heart. But that is a big impact from us again off the back of those changes we've made to this tactic. For some reason, it's just working late on in our season. Thankfully, just thought we might try it out there when we needed goals, and it seems to be working. I have no idea why. It's a bit mental, why a couple of changes can make such an impact, but we've gone 2-0 up. A free kick for us now here, which Kelly tries to put top left corner. That one does just go over the bar, but feeling pretty comfy now that this is the game we will wrap up the title and that will make promotion made all the more impressive by the fact that, of course, we've got our rotation players out there for this game. But good with it from Casper sweeping us back here on the attack. Kelly plays that forward to a Luco. Some good footwork goes looking for the top left corner, but unfortunately puts that one just over the bar. Now we might drop back to positive with this 2-0 lead. Just make sure we actually see this out, and also just time waste here a little bit more than we usually do. For some reason, actually, I left being more disciplined on there. Pretty sure the first time I tried the whole 4-1-4-1 thing, we said be more expressive, but for some reason it's been working. We won't complain about it here from what's been happening in the second half, but quickly making our way through here, 4 minutes of added time. That was quick, that's what she said, and we are the champions of the National League. Our full rotation get the job done there away at Gateshead with a 2-0 win, and with 2 games spare left here in this season, despite the fact that we were expected to be rock bottom according to the media and 21st on the season preview. The wage budget, as I'll say a few times now, might suggest otherwise, because we certainly are paying these boys a fair bit with that Tycoon takeover we did have last season, but back-to-back promotions, back-to-back titles, and next season we're going up to EFL League 2, as with the National League off the back of a 2-0 win away at Gateshead. And we're back in the inbox off back of there, lifting the National League title with this Buxton team. A big upset, as you'll see soon, because I have a quick look at some of these items. I did quickly skip over, though. The budgets didn't take too long of a look at that. We'll get to that shortly, but we do indeed lift the National League off the back of that 2-0 win. For some reason, going more attacking is working the beefy, not too surprising considering it's first against 20th, but still a bit weird how that usual Buxton base has stopped working just a little bit. But there's the confirmation. We have lifted the National League. A couple of Bs in a row there as we back up Bromley. South Shields now are in the playoffs. Quirk, he made his debut. The Buxton fans, they're ecstatic. £450 to win apparently is what we were paying at the start of the season, which makes it all the more confusing where our transfer budget is only £1,000. I'm now officially concerned about this takeover that is potentially about to take place, because seriously, we probably need more than that going up to EFL League 2. So all of a sudden, if some job interviews start coming in for us here, I'm probably a bit more willing to listen than I was before with the whole Tycoon situation. But we've got 46.5k a week, which to be fair is not too bad. It's an extra 16k to our current wage budget, but still, that's not much of a transfer budget. I'm a bit concerned about that. Surely Cade could have afforded to put a sly 100 on us at 450 to 1, and that would have given us quite a nice transfer budget to work with, but for some reason he had no faith, and we've got only £1,000 to work with. So that is a bit of a concern, but thankfully we did the hard part. We've got promotion up to EFL League 2. Midgley is a very happy boy. Thankfully did a good job after coming back from injury. He scored a couple of really important goals there to make sure we wrap things up with 2 games in hand. Caden Kelly there, the man of the match with his 2 assists. And we are the champions off the back of that 2-0 win over Gateshead. We'll start to make our way forward for the last couple of games of the season and make our way a bit closer to that end of season review. And hold on a second, because before we can actually get to our next game being played against Dorking Wanderers, Barrow are offering us a job interview. We still haven't applied for any jobs since we've come here to Buxton, because there hasn't been a reason to yet, but all of a sudden off the back of that transfer budget that we did get going up to EFL League 2, this looks a bit more interesting. Barrow, let's check these guys out. Also, the finances actually could be quite important. They're up in League 2 themselves, positioned in 19th. Let's just check out here how close they are to relegation. Still with a couple of games left there. Reading are stomping away there, going back up to EFL League 1. They're 13 points clear of relegation, so if there's no danger they'll be coming back down, so we should still be in League 2 if we took this job going into next season. Looks like Oldham, Harrogate or Hartlepool will be the 2 teams that do go down to the National League. So that's interesting. Barrow are quite safe there, even though they are down in 19th. A quick look here at the season preview. They're supposed to be the 18th best team, so to be fair, they're kind of doing what they should be. So a bit surprised there that they've sacked their manager before the season did come to an end. We might have a look here, though, at the job advert as well before we get stuck into this interview. What's their wage budget? It's £28,500 a week. Let's just check out what ours currently is. It's 46k. So to be fair, might not be as enticing as I thought it might be, but their transfer budget could be a bit bigger, which might counter that just a little bit. And of course, their squad probably a bit stronger as well. So I think here we'll attend this interview and just see what they have to say. A bit different to the end of today's episode, because Barnet are going to still be in the Vanarama National League next season. This one, a bit more interesting, a fellow League 2 team for next season. So let's see here what Paul has to say it's great to be here, I think. Not too sure about what Barrow does have going on, but do we think it's a positive or a negative that we've just had one team so far in the save? I think we'll say we've not had the longest career, because to be fair, it's only been 2 and a bit seasons. Not much chance to bounce around yet, thankfully. Been getting the job done quite well there. Why do we want to leave after doing so much good work? We don't really, but you offered us a job, mate. I don't really know how we say that. My current circumstances, be a little relation, I think, is how we address that one. Are we willing to assure we'd do a better job of maintaining a good dressing room atmosphere than the previous manager did? Yes, we should be fine. It's been pretty good here at Buxton so far, so let's hope it continues if we make the move to Barrow. We need a manager who can work with limited resources. That might be a concern, because we've had a Tycoon takeover the last couple of years, mate, so I'm not too sure if you've actually done your research. We'll say we'll do the right thing with the club's money. My track record might not say the same, but we might actually say here our reputation speaks for itself in terms of if we're the right manager to lift us from their solid platform and take them to the next level, because actually we've been doing something similar with that Buxton team, overachieving. Let's hope our results there do speak for themselves. We'll be able to take charge straight away or at a later date. I think here we'd like to see out the remainder of the season at Buxton, because there's no point really going there for a couple of games when those guys are already safe. As part of the recruitment process, some backroom staff, let's just say, a fair amount of changes, because why not? And here's the club vision: make the most of set pieces, which is certainly something our board here at Buxton has been wanting. We haven't been doing. Work from the wage budget, grow the reputation, all that usual stuff there in terms of FM. Don't sign people over 33 and become established in League 2 and competitive in the FA Cup. That seems pretty fine. And continue being established in EFL League 2. So to that's probably a bit higher up in terms of what we'll get at Buxton when that club vision does eventually come through. We'll say that's all fine. No expectations, obviously. If we're staying at Buxton the rest of the season, that does make sense. Anything to request before we maybe join them? I don't think so. It is worth noting too, we have just got the board at Buxton to agree to give us our National Aid coaching course. Of course, we did actually get a National B earlier this season, but I did try and get that sorted during the off-season last season. It just took Kate a fair while there to agree to it. Thankfully this time, a bit quicker on it. We can get it done during the off-season. So hopefully by the time we come back for League 2, we'll have our Natty A licence. But there's the interview there with Barrow. It'll be interesting. No mention of a transfer budget, which I was hopeful we'd get there considering their wage budget is lower than what we've got here at Buxton. But we'll see how that goes, and if we have a decision to make about which team in League 2 we'll be managing next season. And we're back the day after we've wrapped up the National League season here with our Buxton team. 2 wins to finish things off there. A 3-2 win over Dorking. Interesting game that one. Have been trying out some of those things that we're doing with the more attacking system we use when needing the goals there late in those couple of games we did play in today's episode. They kind of worked there against Dorking. A couple more adjustments before we took on Maidenhead. A bit more comfy looking there with a 3-0 win. So 2 wins from 2 to wrap up the season. If you're wondering where our tactic looks like now, here's what it is. The wingbacks on support. Apart from that though, not too much different. Apart from the fact as well that we are going with a higher tempo. So not too much change. Just trying to figure out maybe the couple of things that actually get this tactic going that weren't quite working before. So hopefully that's what we can take into the start of next season, which unfortunately will actually still be here at Buxton. I say unfortunately, that's a bit harsh. It might not be too bad, but Barrow, they just did not want us. They wanted Nigel Pearson instead of us. That actually takes the decision away for us there. We will stay with Buxton at the moment. Going into next season, will be interesting to see if that changes during the course of the off-season, because no doubt once that promotion does get put next to our name and we officially go up to being a League 2 team, that could gain some extra interest from teams who are up further in the English pyramid. But for now, we are still here at Buxton going into our first season in League 2, and we'll do so off the back of getting 100 points in the season here off the back of those last couple of wins that we did pick up. There's also the teams involved in the playoffs still to take place though, so we'll make our way through those playoffs and hopefully then get stuck in the end of season review. And going forward a couple of weeks there from that Barrow rejection, and finally got the end of season review here from Buxton off back of the completion of the playoffs to see who else comes up alongside us here into League 2 for next season. But another trophy we pick up here, this time the Vanarama National League. It does mean though, no chance to pick up that FA trophy. To be fair, don't think we mind that, seeing as now we'll be involved in the EFL. But here are the signings we made going into this season. Absolutely most of them were on a free, but apparently the best of them was Ben Midgley. A bit surprisingly, because I thought he came in a little bit later, and also he didn't play that many games with that 3-month injury he did suffer to his hip, but apparently he's our signing of the season there, 4 goals and 7 assists with a 7.17 average rating. Luke Colville can probably feel a bit hard done by with the 15 goals, 3 assists, and slightly higher average rating, as can players like George Morgan, who I thought was pretty good, but their average rating might have let him down. But overall, most of our signings we did make here going into the season, obviously pretty good considering that we've won the league and got promoted when we're not supposed to. That was quite good work from us there in the transfer market. Most players on a free, apart from Charlie Casper, for that 10k, which you could argue was a bit of an average decision considering he made a couple of shockers during the course of the season. But to be fair, he's a pretty good goalkeeper, should still be one even up in League 2 next season. The other transfers out, we sold a couple of players for some money. I say a couple, just the one there in Deja Alamo. And to be fair, he's been pretty average for Panetto, but mostly getting rid of these players because they were rubbish or they were bringing down the dynamics. Thankfully, it did work out in the end, and we loaned out a couple of players. Matty Taylor won't be here next season because he's retiring, and JD Costello could be a handy backup centre back if we need one, with that 4-star potential getting some game time there this season at Oxford City in the Vanarama National League North. Going over to the season results, and obviously this reads quite well. You'll notice there that Scunthorpe did win the playoffs, so they actually deservedly go up alongside us there to League 2 for next season. They beat South Shields there, I think it was 2-1 in the playoff final. So Scunthorpe, despite the fact their late season form in the league was pretty Arsenal-like, they get the job done when it matters, which is not usually an Arsenal thing, so maybe need to change that there. What we're saying about Scunthorpe, maybe City-like or something, not too sure if that's a good example this season either, but there's our form from the season over. On the right-hand side, we start off terribly, had to cook some stuff up there going into that Bradford City game, and thankfully, I cooked up something good, because as you can see off the back of those first 3 games, our form was pretty impressive for the remainder of the season. There are a couple of losses in there, and a lot of green dots, especially during the course of that Christmas New Year period. That can be a big period in terms of form moving up the table. That was also important to us gaining top spot there in the league over Scunthorpe eventually with that 3-0 win there on the 10th of February. Did drop points a little bit off the back of that, but thankfully Scunthorpe dropped a few more, and we found our form there just in time for the late stage of the season, even though it did take a little bit of weird technical tweaking, and we pick up the league in the end very comfortably by 13 points to be fair, extended that gap there on Scunthorpe. So I don't even know if we needed to win that much during the course of today's episode, but in the end we only lost 6 games. That was a very impressive season. We're going up to EFL League 2. The FA Cup was a little bit disappointing because we got knocked out early by Reading, but to be fair, they were by far the best team in League 2 as we saw before, so no shame in that. Of course, next season, it should mean we straight away go in that first round of the FA Cup, so maybe we can get on a little bit more of a cup run than we've done in the first few seasons here with this Buxton team. And unfortunately, blew a big chance there in the FA Trophy with that loss away at Newport, so that's hopefully the last time we get the chance to compete in that competition going forward. To the moments to remember, our biggest win was 4-0 in the FA Trophy over Evesham United, as you'd probably expect considering that's a team from below the Vanarama National League North or South. The match to remember was our first win of the season, 2-1 away at Joe Barton's Morecambe, and the goal of the season did come in a 4-2 win over Boardroom in the first half of the season, and it was scored by Sebastian Williams, the only one outside of Ryan McLean's hat-trick. Big goal this one too, as Boardroom actually just equalised before this did take place, but a nice run there from Williams from nearly inside of his own half, puts that one away in the bottom left corner. Probably not the most impressive strike, but in terms of where that goal did start from, it was quite impressive. You could argue we might have scored a few better, but it was quite decent. We picked up 3 points from that game against a quite decent team there in Bournemouth, who were there or thereabouts in the playoffs. So Sebastian Williams does pick up there the goal of the season. Going forward with finances, these are actually not too bad, as you'd expect off the back of the Tycoon takeover, a promotion, all that sort of stuff. And also our reputation did go up to 1.5 stars with the promotion that we did get. No doubt that should get bumped up again when we eventually become a League 2 club. It probably means as well this season I'll hold off on transfers a little bit longer than I did last season, just to make sure we get some League 2 quality players once we actually become a League 2 club. I do hope once we get a new FM, that ticks over a bit sooner, because it's a bit annoying how long you have to wait before players realise you're actually a club in a higher division, not stuck in the same division, because already I've tried to sign some players from Premier League youth academies with contracts expiring, and apparently teams down in 18th have stronger squads than us, which doesn't make much sense. But there's our best 11 for this season. It makes a lot of sense there. Not too much to talk about there, apart from the fact that 2 advanced playmakers in Williams as well as Cully, which is a little bit weird, no option there with a central midfielder, but it's not too surprising considering Midgley was out for a fair while with an injury. And going forward to the accolades, now one there from last season where we did pick up the National League Manager of the Season, but we picked up Manager of the Month there in the National League itself in November, December, January, as well as April. So that big patch there around Christmas as well as late in the season. The Fans Player of the Season was Ryan McLean there with a 7.2, the same average rating as Ben Midgley, who picked up Young Player, and the signing of the season goal of the season saw before there to Sebastian Williams. George Morgan, the top goal scorer, which is a record as well as record in the league there with just the one less. The most assists, that was Caden Cully with 10. McLean, the most man of the matches in the season with 7. And as of yet, there's been no competition awards, but you can see there on the right-hand side that a few more records to Morgan as well as to Casper for most clean sheets, and the oldest player was Matty Taylor, but I think that's still from last season, because I'm pretty sure he didn't play a game for us here this year before we shipped him off to Alfredton Town, and now he is going to retire. History in the making with that good form there, I'd argue mid-season, but apparently it was a late charge there all the way to promotion, and then quite comfortable, that 13-point gap over Scunthorpe, who also come up in terms of our manager timeline. Let's just find here where it picks up. I'm pretty sure it would be there off the back of the Manager of the Year from last season. We signed Charlie Casper for 10k, a record transfer. Also a couple of others that we picked up on a free, and a couple more players that we picked up there. Lots of free transfers. Then we scored a late goal to beat Torquay United on the 15th November. Jack Quirk on a free in December. So you can see there, took a while for him to make his debut with this Buxton team. We won lots of games apparently. Winners win there, a club record 40 matches in a row back towards the start of this year. A century of matches, unfortunately. That was the 2-1 defeat to South Shields to mark my 100th game in charge here at Buxton. Another late winner over Halifax Town in April. We then signed someone from the youth intake there, Jordan, with the interesting last name, and of course picked up National League with that win away at Gateshead, a new points record for the club, and also ended up being 100. And Elliot Jones is joining us going into next season, a former Man City prospect who does look quite decent, but probably going to end up being a backup player for us in the first year at the very least of the save, but certainly has a bit of potential. But unfortunately, as I said, missed out on some other players because they still think they're down in the Vanarama National League, and there's better teams than us, which is a bit annoying. As I said, hopefully that gets fixed going into FM26 there, I say, but that will do it for the end of season review. These are our best 11 so far in the save as well, since we've come to Buxton. Casper in goal, Leake at left back, Easterman, Broadbent at centre back, Cunningham is still there at right back, still here down in our under 21s. The midfield is Kirby, Truman, and Caden Cully. Stobbs at right wing, Fitchu at left wing, and George Morgan goes in there up front over Di Girolamo, and I'm pretty sure that's all we need to do to wrap up this season with this Buxton team. You saw before that, of course, it is Scunthorpe who are going up to League 2 alongside us, and just to make sure we know who's also going to be there in League 2 next season, going down Harrogate Town as well as Oldham, Reading, Doncaster and Port Vale, they've been promoted. It was Northampton, MK Dons, Walsall and Peterborough United out of the playoffs, and coming down from League 1, Stevenage, Crawley, Bristol, and our senior affiliates in Mansfield. So that won't be a thing soon. Probably the most useless affiliate that I've had in a FM save. I only picked them because the Wayne Train was there on loan this year in real life, but he's not there anymore. He's at Wigan, and they're doing a lot better than Mansfield, which is probably the main reason why, because the Wayne Train is an absolute beast. But I think they will do it here for this season with Buxton. Again, we gain promotion and lift a title, this time the National League, and next season we'll be there in EFL League 2 unless we get a more interesting job offer than Barrow in between now and the start of next season. I'll see how that plays out over the course of this coming weekend. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this season. A big overachieving one for us there with that win and promotion up to League 2. If you did, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. We'll come back at the start of next week, hopefully with a transfer recap and our first game at charge here at Buxton, or potentially could be a move somewhere if there's a club good enough that does want our services with that little tiny transfer budget that we do have. But to be fair, as we saw before, Barrow, that wage budget actually not too bad. But until the start of next week, for you to imagine some EFL League 2 action. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.